Hey everybody, I am in the Chords of Orion studio today. So I recently posted an ambient guitar meditation of me playing acoustic baritone guitar outside in front of my willow tree. It was a very simple recording where I just essentially plugged my baritone guitar into a Zoom H4n and I just captured the dry electroacoustic tone, and that's it. On this video, I'd like to show you what I did with that dry, kind of uninteresting tone to get the mix. So let's get to work. All right, I've got Logic pulled up and I've got the project loaded, and here's what the dry guitar signal sounds like coming right out of the Zoom H4n. All right, and you've probably already noticed the problem. It's only coming out of one side. For me, it's the left side here. Yeah, so I recorded it in mono. I only had one mic, actually one guitar pickup to one of the inputs on the H4n. So in order to correct that, I am using the direction mixer that comes with Logic Pro, and there's a preset called Stereo to Mono. Here's what it sounds like. Oh yeah, that's much better. All right, now that I've got the mono thing out of the left ear solved, I actually do want a stereo kind of sound. So in order to get that, I'm actually using an effect from Logic Pro called Stereo Spread. So I've got it's basically the default setting, don't tell anybody, but I think it sounds pretty good, and here's what it does sound like. Turn it off. Okay, so just kind of simulating, if you will, a little bit of a stereo spread. Next up is some EQ and compression. And as I normally do, if you've been following me here, you may have seen this before, I love the Isotope Neutron 2. So here's what I've got going on. First up is the Equalizer. And I introduced just a little bit of a low end bump, and I've got some mids cut out around 400 hertz, and I've got a gentle high shelf just to kind of give it a little bit more sparkle. So here I've got it turned off, and I'll play it and turn it on. Okay, so it's pretty subtle, but it just makes it a little brighter. Okay, next up is some compression, and here's what I've got going on. First off, it's a 2-band compressor. So we've got kind of lows and mids and even into kind of the low highs, and then I've got another band for the very high frequencies. And so this overall compression ratio is 1.3 to 1 for most of the frequency range. And then up in the highs, it's 3.4 to 1. And let's hear what that sounds like. All right, so just using it to smooth things out just a little bit. Next up is an exciter, which is basically a plugin that introduces very subtle harmonic saturation or harmonic distortion. So we can see here we're essentially using the warm exciter and the tape exciter. So most of the frequency range is warm. The highs are the tape, which will give it a little bit more shimmer. Here's what it sounds like, and it is going to be pretty subtle. Turn it off. Okay, so it is pretty subtle, right? So, and that's typically the way you want an exciter to be. If you turn on the exciter and you can tell it's an exciter, you've probably got too much. This is the Step Effects from Logic Pro. So this is one of the stock plugins. It basically allows you to create step modulations, filtering, reverbs, distortions, delays, etc. based on the tempo of the song. Check out what I've got going on here. I kind of like it. So first of all, it's off. Yeah, isn't that cool? So what's going on here? Couple things. One, obviously, we've got a reverb. Let me pull that down and you'll hear it go away. Okay, so that's the reverb. The second thing is some delay, and so it's a high. It's a delay with a high pass filter, which is pretty cool, and it's on the quarter. It's synced to the quarter note of the beat, and you can see that delay left and right are a little bit offset, so they're not going to delay exactly the same. I've got a little distortion going, a little exciter, a little more exciter going, but that's okay. I've got a modulation effect, and that's really the main thing you're hearing here. And what you can see going on here is that I've got some general modulation, and I've got the step modulator turned on. Got depth and rate, set up. You can even kind of set a curve, in this case, an angle, if you will, for the modulation attack, hold, and release. And then you can set filter cutoff, reverb mix, pan, etc. But these steps control the amount of modulation. And so, again, watch the steps as I play. You'll see it follow the tempo. Okay, so can you hear the modulation change as the steps kind of go through? And there's 16 steps there. As the steps kind of iterate through each of the 16 steps, you can hear the modulation kind of open up and then close back down. I really like this a lot. I have found myself using these step effects quite a bit since it released with one of the recent updates to Logic. And I generally keep the mix pretty low so it's not crazy. Let me turn it up and you'll hear it get out of hand. Okay, so look, too much is too much, right? But actually it was kind of cool. But I like it a little bit more subtle, and I really think it adds quite a bit. All right, so that's the basic mix on the channel. I also added some Birdsong. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, it's very subtle, but it's just kind of hanging out there. And so when you put them both together, here's what you get. Okay, it kind of gives you a feel for, me playing outside in front of the willow tree. So I kind of like it. All right, next up is, a reverb, and this is the Valhalla Shimmer, which I have featured here on this channel a few times. Now turn it on. Oh, yeah. That really adds a lot of nice depth, and I've got the mix down to 0.27. You can see I am using a pitch shift for that shimmer effect. Feedback's all the way down, diffusion's up, size is in the middle, a little bit of a high cut. And so you're not hearing that octave, really all that much, but it does add a lot of depth. Especially when I kind of, hit the strings harder, you can just hear that reverb bloom. All right, finally, I've got Ozone 8, which is a mastering plugin. So first up is the Equalizer. This is, again, a mastering equalizer. It's not going to be crazy, but you can see a little dip in the kind of the upper lows, low mids, and then a gentle rise in the high frequencies to just provide a little more sparkle. Actually, I'm going to turn the maximizer back on so we don't lose volume. Here we go. And you can hear it just kind of adds some presence to the overall mix. All right, next up is a compressor. This is the vintage compressor, and it allows you to shape the compression curve based on the frequencies. Okay, and here's what it sounds like. Oh yeah, yeah, that's nice. You can hear everything just kind of becomes a lot more present, kind of more up front. And then finally, Ozone also has something called dynamic EQ, and this, you can think of this as a multi-band compressor where you can get very specific with the frequencies that you want to compress. I've got a couple identified here just to smooth things out. Well, there you have it, a quick run-through of the mix of me playing out in front of the willow tree. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to Chords of Orion. Also, I'm going to put a link around here for Chords of Orion music. And as always, I'll see all of you on the next video.